Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm here for another episode of the createTED podcast, and today I'm sitting at the Storymakers Conference, and I'm running my daughter's booth for Sandcastle Editing. One thing I thought I would do today is just interview some people to find out, as a creative, why do they go to a conference? And I really think it's one of the reasons to go is it gives you a chance to gather with like-minded people who are doing the same kind of creative thing that you are. I think there's a lot of power in gathering with people who are, on this creative journey together. So let's see what some people think, why they're here today.
So I go to conferences because writing is such a solitary thing, and I live on a farm, which is even more solitary. And then you come here and you're part of this whole community. And so when you feel like it's kind of hopeless and you don't know what you're going to write or how to even keep going, then you come to one of these and you become inspired, and it fills your well, and then you can keep going. So it helps bring you back, and it's wonderful to feel a part of something.
So this is actually my first writing conference. A friend of mine told me about Storymakers. A bunch of her friends in her writing group were going to come, and it ended up just being the two of us. And I came because I didn't go to creative writing classes in college. I didn't have any of that expertise, and so I've been doing a lot of craft writing reading. I read a lot of craft writing books, but this has just been really awesome to come and explore and learn and talk to people and mingle. And it's just been such an experience to be able to talk to people who know what it's like to slog through this amazing, wonderful process.
Hi, friends. I feel that creativity is why we are here. I like to think of it as each of us has this little spark that we can hold in our hands, kind of like the Empress on Never Ending Story. And we can offer that little bit of light that we have, and we can flame it up into something bright like a candle. And when we get around other people, it becomes this big beacon that draws other people who are creative so that they can find their voices, whether it be writing or expression through art, music, dance, anything. I love the creativity that goes into baking and thinking of new recipes. I love the creativity of people who invent games like pickleball. There's just so much in the world to look at as a form of beauty because of the expression of creativity that our songs, our souls long to do. And I just want that to be something that you ponder. What is it that you have to give others that has been in your heart and that you may have been hiding, that little light under a bushel? Bring it out, blow on it, let it become an ember until it flames others as well.
So for me, it's so important because you never know what somebody else is going to say that you need to hear to help your creative journey continue on. There have been so many things this over the past 2 days that I've heard that I'm just like, yes, I needed to hear that, even though I didn't realize it. And then just the encouragement that you can get from each other.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about conferences is the community, and it's going there and seeing, are these people your tribe? Are these people like they have similar aspects of their souls that connect, and you're all doing the same? You're in the same boat trying to make the same thing, and it's so great to be here and know, yes, we're all trying to create works, of art, and we're helping each other, and it's a very supportive community, which you don't know community. It's our first time. You don't know until we come, but it's very supportive and just like, yeah, I think I've studied a subject, and then coming here and an expert has a new take on it that I didn't even know existed. So that's very valuable, and I feel fueled to do more of my journey, and a lot of problems I've been having, I feel like they covered it great. So yeah, excited to continue on, and that's a huge part of why I love it. So.
All right. Yeah, I think we should. It's important to gather with other writers because that's how you gain more perspective into your own writing and into different styles of time management, storytelling, plotting, character development, all the little elements of writing. When you get talking to other people and what they do for these skills, it helps you and helps you get stronger in your own skills as well. For example, I was just sitting at lunch with someone who wrote a historical fantasy about Albania, and I'm writing a historical fantasy about Albania. So we were able to kind of like switch, and like talk about Albania and the approaches that we're taking. And it was really like inspiring for me and jogged my mind for a couple of things that I would like to add to my story too. So you never know what you're going to find.
Okay. I came to Storymakers Conference to refill my creative bucket and to learn tips and techniques to make me a better writer.
Hello again, friends. You just had a chance to listen to some other people that were at the Storymakers Conference that I've been at. And now you'll get to hear in a minute a little bit from my daughter, Abby. We were there at the conference running a vendor booth for her editing business, Sandcastle Editing, the first time, which was a lot of fun. But now we're at the end of 2 days. We got there, early today. I don't even know what time it is now. Is it like 10,
It's
11?
10:45.
10:45, so almost 11. So it's been a long day. We're going to talk about a couple takeaways. Yeah, like I said, my brain's really tired, but we wanted to do this debrief today just because, that's days like these are just part of your creative journey. So, Abby, why don't you share a little bit about just why did you go to a Storymakers Conference, or why do you go to any type of conference like this?
I think there's with any writing conference, there's two aspects for it. One is to learn more about craft, to learn more about the business of writing for people who want to do it as a full-time career, to learn more about the publishing industry and things like that. And then there's also the community aspect. You get to go meet other writers because writing is very solitary most of the time. You're just sitting in your, room writing, typing things out. You don't really interact much with people when you're actually writing. And so there's that element. I made the joke several times as filmmakers that, not much writing actually gets done at writing conferences, which is ironic considering that's, all we're there to learn about. But, that's not the point. The point is to meet other people who are writing that are on the same journey you are.
That's a really good point. And one of I mentioned earlier some reasons I think you should go to conferences. But I wanted to mention a couple things just about why you go. It's an opportunity for you to either open a door for someone or to have a door open for you. For me, with where I'm at right now, I love to go and help open doors for other people. It was one of the reasons I went to support Abby with this editing business. And it was a lot of fun just to talk to people about editing or about her editing business while Abby was going through the classes, and just had some really neat experiences. Just being able to create some moments for people, just for them to see their own creative abilities and their potential. And then also just to do a small little thing like printing a sticker for someone that says, "Ask me about websites," because they were going around talking to people, trying to help others understand that was what they did, is they helped authors with websites. So we had the sticker machine. I printed out the sticker and gave it to this lady, and she came back later and said, "Hey, it worked, it worked. Someone asked me about my websites." And so it was just a neat thing to be able to do that. And that's really what it's about, is just, doors opening. Had some great ones open for me. But Abby, what about you? What are either some doors that opened for you this time, or some doors you were able to open for people?
Well, a door that I think I helped open for someone is, so I also went Thursday, to do some of the Thursday workshops that they offer. But for the 4 hours before that, I was helping volunteer. I was helping set up the conference. And so there was a girl that I met there, and she said one of her goals was to meet editors, as many editors as she can, and get as many numbers from editors as she could. And, this was all just while we were, putting the papers to put, in the bags. And so she mentioned that. And I said, well, oh, I'm actually an editor and I'm looking for clients right now. And so I was able to give her my business card. And So that was really helpful. That I had that personal connection with somebody.
That's awesome. And speaking of that, with your editing business, we showed up with a blank sheet, a sign up sheet, and we left with a lot of signups. And the reason I say that is uh, sometimes you just have to take the leap and do something that's brand new and then see what happens. And Abby was really blessed with just some opportunities, I think, to a good problem to have of a lot of people who are interested in having, some free edits done just to find out if they think that she's a good fit. And so just that was a neat experience. But Abby actually opened a door for me. And I'm not going to give any names about, because I was able to get some contact information for some people who are going to come on the show. One of them has been on the show before, just on audio, not on video, so that's coming. We've got to get that set up. But the others, I was able to talk to an author who I really enjoy what they write. And when I was talking to that author, Abby calls me and then comes running over and says, um, there's a person I know you've been wanting to talk to. They're open. You should go over and talk to that person. So I looked over, and lo and behold, there was an opening to go talk to him. So I walked over and talked to him, and they said yes, because I asked the question. If they'd be willing to come on the show. So always look for those opportunities. There's always something there, and I'm super excited for I took some chances, even just trying to do this episode. I've never done one quite like this, where I've done interviews at a conference with people, but it turned out to be some just really good things. It was fun to hear what people were saying, and I really hope you enjoyed it. And before we finish, I just want to see, Abby, do you have any either last takeaways from the conference or just any advice you'd share with listeners about creativity?
Gee, that's a loaded question. I got a lot out of the conference this year, even more than last year, and I got a lot last year too, because I'm at a different stage in my writing journey than I was last year. I just finished the first draft of my first ever novel that I've ever written before, so I'm doing rewrites for the first time ever before, and it's something I've never done before. And it's a genre that I heard a couple times is not really very, it's just not really doing well in the market right now. And then a different genre, I write historical fiction. And I heard a couple times, historical just really isn't doing all well that well right now. I'm like, okay. And so like I poured my heart and soul into this for the last 10 years of my life. To hear like this might not sell. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And I kept hearing my next novel that I'm going to do is kind of more of a horror something other genre. Um, and I heard, once, it's like, oh, horror is like just doing really well right now. And so like I was getting really nervous, like I was less secure in like my book that I just finished, that I'm doing rewrites to try and make better. And I'm like, well, what if this isn't the book that gets me published? And I know, and I knew, that like that's okay. That is completely okay if my first book that I write is not the one that gets me published. That's okay. I was still scared. I was still nervous and like thinking, I was like, if this book isn't gonna get published, like should I keep putting the energy into rewrites and not just start the next book that might be a little more marketable for people? And so I had that thought kind of like lingering in the back of my head, during my conference. And one of the things that I got to do today was to share my query letter in front of agents, as part of a panel class. And so everyone that was in the room and all the agents got to read my query letter, which was like 100 people. Like, that's intimidating and scary. And so, I got a lot of good feedback on it, and so it was like stuff, I was like, oh, okay, like, it's good. I've been poring over my first like 5 or 10 pages because I'm getting ready to start querying. But anyway, so I had all these thoughts in my head, bouncing around in my head of like, well, like, what do I do, right? What is going to be the best investment of my time over the next like 6 months? Should I spend the next 6 months, revising my current novel to get it ready to publish, or should I just start writing a new one? And I talked to uh, Jen Savage, J. Scott Savage's wife, while my dad was talking to him. He was getting books signed. And one of the things, I told her about my novel idea, and she's like, wow, that sounds really cool. And, I shared that, I was in the rewrites and, something I've never really done before. And she shared something that was really profound to me. She said that, nobody sits down at a piano for the first time and plays a concerto. And I'm a musician. Like, I've never played a concerto. So, but like, I know how hard it is to I sing. So it's like, when I sight read, I don't sight read perfectly if it's my first time looking at the music. Um, Very rarely, despite how easy the alto part often is. um, but that gave me a lot of confidence, and like, oh, okay, like, it just reminded me, like, hey, just because I've not done something before, like this is still my first time ever doing revisions on a piece of work that I've finished. And I got feedback from writers that I you know admire when I told them the concept of my novel. you know that's really cool, right? And I'm like, oh, and Jen and J. Scott Savage both remember my query letter. They were in the room when my query letter was read. And they both said, like, hey, there's some really strong stuff in there, like stuff that's unique, stuff that needs to be in the query letter that kind of like sets it apart from other books. And so to hear this from a published author of several books really meant a lot to me, because it's like, oh, okay. Like, it gave me the confidence and reminded me of stuff that I had been told before, but of like, my story is a story worth telling. I would love for it to get published. I would love to get an agent. But at the end of the day, like, even if, the people I've told about my book, you know, were the only people that read my book. All the people who said my book sounded cool, were the people who've read it. Like, those are the people I'm going to read. Like, those are the people I'm writing for. And I'm writing it for myself, too.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth.
You're welcome.
And I think one thing, my last thought, is just remember that, when you dive into some new creative opportunities, sometimes you don't feel worthy of those opportunities. You don't feel worthy of these, these talents that you've been blessed with, these talents you've been developing. But whenever you feel that, don't listen to it, because you are worthy of those, because we all have an innate talent to create, because, we're children of God, and you can create whatever that is. So just remember that, work hard, and I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a different episode, a little bit of our Abby and I's debrief from what we experienced at the conference. You got to hear from other people, what they've learned and why they go to conferences. And if you've never gone to a creative conference for whatever your creative, I was going to say field of choice, but whatever your creative passion is, I really encourage you to find a conference or some way to gather with people that do that same thing. It will be just a remarkable experience, and it'll catch you on fire, and you'll want to do it even more. But stay tuned for some upcoming episodes that I think you'll be excited about. And again, as always, thank you for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe and share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next episode.